In other news, Twitter barred Milo Yiannopoulos earlier this week in a crackdown on harassment and abuse on that social media platform. The move comes after comedian Leslie Jones quit using Twitter, sending out one last tweet that read, "I leave Twitter tonight with tears and a very sad heart. All this because I did a movie." Jones was forced off the social media platform when she received hundreds of racist and sexist remarks over the weekend in response to the release of the rebooted Ghostbusters movie. While the volume of attacks increased sharply after the release of the film, the truth is that Leslie Jones and the rest of the Ghostbusters cast have been attacked for months from various parts of the internet, simply for starring in a reboot of the Ghostbusters movie, which features an all-female cast. She returned to the social media platform earlier today, but what does this say about how social media can be abused and transformed into a platform for targeted harassment? Let's ask Benjamin Dixon, host of the Benjamin Dixon Show. Ben, welcome to the program. Benjamin? I think he can't hear us. Okay.
Hi, Tom. How are you? Thanks so much for having me again.
Great to have you with us, Ben. What are your first thoughts on this harassment and how social media can be weaponized?
Tom, it really is a sad continuation of the behaviors that we see online. There's so much anonymity online where people are able to harass without any type of punitive action. And there's always this conversation between whether or not it is a matter of free speech versus a matter of the terms of service of a private organization. But it's a sad indication of what has happened. Very tragic what's happening in terms of the type of abuse that goes on continuously.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned free speech versus terms of service. The First Amendment protects us against our free speech being infringed upon by the government, but it has no statement that your free speech cannot be infringed upon by a private entity. I mean, your employer can fire you for something you say. You're not entitled to have, a time on radio or TV, that kind of thing. How does this work with Twitter, Facebook, social media? What your thoughts on that dynamic?
Yeah, so we have this feeling, the sensation that it is a platform of free speech, when in actuality, we're being guided by their terms of service. We're limited by their terms of service, and they are able to limit our speech as well as our behavior. And so there's this tension that people feel that, I should be able to speak freely here, but when in reality, Twitter, Facebook, all of the different platforms definitely have the ability to regulate our speech, and that's exactly what we've seen happen.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on the fact that this particular kerfuffle was apparently over a reboot of a comedy about hunting ghosts? I mean, isn't it really about sexism and racism?
I mean, that's exactly what it is, Tom. You went right to the core of it, because we see some of the #1 targeted people online are women, without question. I mean, there's no question about that. But then if you're a woman and you're a woman of color, then it's almost like the double whammy of harassment. And that's exactly what happened to Leslie Jones. I mean, some of the things that were targeted towards her are beyond the pale and unquestionably harassment. And, Twitter has the right to shut you down if they've given you warnings and you break their terms of service. But at the core of it, it is most certainly about racism and sexism.
Yeah, and do you think that racism and sexism and harassment based on that in the online world, sometimes it astonishes me, some of the crap that gets tweeted at me, for example, and I'm not, even black. I mean, I just come on and defend, reasonable positions, I think, and it's just, is it getting worse or better?
I don't know, Tom. It is to the point where, anytime you do anything publicly, anytime you do anything online and publicly, you really have to have a very thick layer of skin. There's not one day that goes by that I'm not called something that I could not repeat on air with you now. Yeah. And it's incessant, it's consistent, and I can't say that it's getting better.
Yeah. If I can move to another topic, Charles Kinsey was a therapist for a young autistic boy. Ask a question, make a comment. You can send a tweet to @Thom_Hartmann using the hashtag #TalkToTom, or post a message on my Facebook page. Our first comment of the night comes from @Perspective84, who